Week 2. Major theories of international politics. Realism and liberalism. A. Introduction. International politics has long been shaped by competing theoretical perspectives that attempt to explain how states behave, why conflicts arise, and how cooperation may emerge in the international system. Among the many approaches in the field of international relations, realism and liberalism stand as the two most influential and enduring traditions. Realism emphasizes the role of power, national interest, and the anarchic nature of the international system. It views states as rational actors, seeking survival and security in a world without a central authority. Liberalism, by contrast, focuses on the possibilities of cooperation, the role of international institutions, economic interdependence, and the importance of domestic political systems. In shaping international behavior, the intellectual roots of these theories stretch back centuries. Realism draws from thinkers such as Thucydides, Machiavelli, and Thomas Hobbes, while liberalism traces its lineage to John Locke, Immanuel Kant, and Adam Smith. In the modern discipline of international relations, these traditions were further developed by scholars such as Hans Morgenthau, Kenneth Waltz, Robert Keohane, and Joseph Nye. Understanding these theoretical frameworks is essential for interpreting major global events, from wars and alliances to international trade regimes and global governance institutions. The rivalry between realism and liberalism reflects deeper philosophical debates about human nature, political order, and the prospects for peace in world politics. This study examines the major components of realism and liberalism, including their key concepts and theoretical foundations, and concludes with a comparative analysis of the two approaches. B. Realism in international politics. 1. The intellectual origins of realism. Realism is one of the oldest traditions in political thought. It emerged from the observation that political life is characterized by competition, conflict, and the pursuit of power. The foundations of realism can be traced to Thucydides, whose account of the Peloponnesian War illustrated the dynamics of power politics between Athens and Sparta. Thucydides famously wrote that the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must, reflecting the realist belief that power determines outcomes in international relations. Later thinkers, such as Niccolo Machiavelli, emphasized the necessity of political leaders to pursue power and security, even through morally ambiguous means. Thomas Hobbes described the state of nature as a condition of insecurity, where individuals constantly fear violence, a metaphor later applied to the international system. 2. Core assumptions of realism. Realism is based on several fundamental assumptions about the international system and the behavior of states. 1. Anarchy in the international system. Realists argue that the international system is anarchic, meaning there is no central authority above states capable of enforcing rules. Unlike domestic politics, where governments maintain order through laws and institutions, the international arena lacks such hierarchical structures. 2. States as the primary actors. Realism views states as the most important actors in international politics. While non-state actors such as multinational corporations or international organizations exist, realists argue that states ultimately dominate global politics because they possess sovereignty and military power. 3. Rationality and survival. States are assumed to be rational, actors seeking to maximize their national interests. The most fundamental interest is survival, which requires maintaining security against potential threats. 4. Power as the central concept. Power is the central concept in realism. It is often measured in terms of military capability, economic strength, and strategic influence. States seek to accumulate power in order to protect themselves and maintain their position within the international system. 3. Balance of power. One of the most important concepts in realism is the balance of power. The balance of power refers to a situation in which states distribute power in such a way that no single state becomes dominant. If one state becomes too powerful, other states may form alliances to counterbalance it. Historically, balance of power politics played a major role in European diplomacy. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the concert of Europe after the Napoleonic Wars is often cited as a classic example of balance of power diplomacy. Balance of power can occur through two main mechanisms. 4. National interest. Another core concept in realism is national interest. Realists argue that foreign policy decisions should be guided primarily by national interests, rather than moral principles or ideological commitments. National interest is typically defined in terms of power, security, and survival. Hans Morgenthau argued that statesmen must think and act in terms of interest defined as power. This perspective suggests that ethical considerations are secondary to strategic calculations in international politics. For realists, the pursuit of national interest explains many historical events, including wars, alliances, and geopolitical rivalries. 5. Structural realism, neorealism. In the late 20th century, Kenneth Waltz developed structural realism, also known as neorealism. Unlike classical realism, which emphasized human nature, structural realism focuses on the structure of the international system. Waltz argued that the distribution of power among states determines patterns of behavior. C. Liberalism in international politics. 1. Intellectual origins of liberalism. Liberalism developed as an alternative to realist pessimism about international relations. The roots of liberal thought can be found in the works of John Locke, who emphasized individual rights and limited government. Immanuel Kant proposed the idea that republican governments and international cooperation could promote lasting peace. Kant's famous essay, Perpetual Peace, suggested that democratic states, economic interdependence, and international institutions could reduce the likelihood of war. These ideas later influenced modern liberal theories of international relations. 2. Core assumptions of liberalism. Liberalism offers a more optimistic view of international politics than realism. 1. Cooperation is possible. Liberals argue that cooperation among states is possible, even in an anarchic system. Through diplomacy, institutions, and shared norms, states can overcome collective action problems. 2. Importance of domestic politics. Unlike realism, which treats states as unitary actors, liberalism emphasizes the role of domestic political systems, interest groups, and public opinion in shaping foreign policy. 3. Role of international institutions. Liberals highlight the importance of international organizations such as the United Nations, World Trade Organization, and European Union. These institutions create rules and norms that facilitate cooperation. 4. Economic interdependence. Economic ties between countries can reduce the likelihood of conflict, because war would disrupt mutually beneficial trade relationships. 3. Institutionalism. A key branch of liberal theory is institutionalism, particularly neoliberal institutionalism. Scholars such as Robert Keohane argued that international institutions help states cooperate by reducing uncertainty, providing information, and establishing rules for interaction. Institutions perform several important functions. For example, the World Trade Organization provides a framework for resolving trade disputes and promoting global trade. 4. Interdependence theory. Another important concept in liberalism is interdependence theory, developed by Robert Keohane and Joseph Nye. Interdependence refers to the situation in which states and societies are connected through multiple channels, such as trade, finance, communication, and migration. C. Comparison of realism and liberalism. Realism and liberalism differ fundamentally in their assumptions about international politics. 1. View of human nature. Realists often have a pessimistic view of human nature, emphasizing competition and conflict. They believe that power struggles are inevitable. Liberals adopt a more optimistic perspective, suggesting that cooperation and progress are possible through institutions and shared interests. 2. Primary actors. Realists focus on states as the dominant actors in international politics. Liberals recognize the importance of states, but also emphasize the role of international organizations, multinational corporations, and non-state actors. 3. Role of power. In realism, power is the central determinant of outcomes. In international politics, in liberalism, power matters, but institutions, norms, and economic relationships also shape international behavior. 4. Possibility of cooperation. Realists are skeptical about long-term cooperation because states fear relative gains by others. Liberals argue that cooperation is achievable through institutions, economic interdependence, and shared norms. 5. Approach to security. Realists prioritize military power and strategic alliances. Liberals emphasize collective security, diplomacy, and international law.